You heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 or 10 people that are around you. You become like them. So it's super important to figure it out and discern who are the people around you. And today I want to talk to you about the circles of influence, how you influence people and how they influence you within this little circle sphere. It's going to be a good talk. I'm loving this and I'm pretty sure you're going to love this too. So you stick around to the end. This is going to add value to your life. Let's go.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go.
I love the idea of circles of influence. I remember a long time ago when I was trying to figure out some leadership thing, I draw these circles, like the inner circle were the people very close to me, and then the little outer circle, and then outer circle. And Simon Sinek has said something about this before. And I love it because it shows me a few things. Like one, people actually learn better and develop better and grow faster and go further when they position themselves in circles and not just in rows. Like, you know how we learn from school and you go to class and you sit in rows and it's very passive. Trust me, I'm a teacher and I see how different it is when people connect, when they're sitting in circles and they're debating, they're going back and forth, and it pushes them and it's hard and it hurts. But that's how we grow. So we grow better in circles. And I have learned with a lot of pain, through a lot of pain in my life, that we are responsible for the people we bring in to the circle. Like, I used to think that we're not. I used to think that, whoever jumps in and we just have to deal with it. But the reality is you're in charge of who you allow into your life. Obviously, God will bring other people and you just have to figure out how the relationships are actually built. I am actually dealing with a lot of things right now in this move to Australia, trying to read people differently. Some people are more direct. Some people are more kept to themselves. This morning, I had a very colorful conversation with the real estate agent that we rented the house from because she was more directed than I expected. And coming from me, I'm a very direct person. Sometimes I'm actually confused by being rude, and I've been rude before, and I've burned people, and I'm like, ooh, that's coming across like very, very straight to the point, very direct. So trust me, I know, I feel that, and we learn better in circles, but we are actually responsible for the people we bring in. So if you're hanging around the wrong people and you're bringing the wrong people into the circle, you might have to respond for that later. So be careful with that. And this is why I think it's so important to talk about this circles of influence. In the series, we've talked about what it means to become, what it means to belong to your family. We talked about the importance of friends, the right friends. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. We talked about mentors, which was one of my favorite ones. You can go back and watch it. How mentors are so important. How can they define the next steps of your lives, just with simple words and very short conversations. And then last week we talked about how to resolve conflict resolution, and we called it restoring relationships, because if there is a conflict, it's because the relationship's been broken somewhere or hasn't even started. So talk about restoring relationships and how we interact and all of that. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. And today we're talking about the circles of influence, how that idea of the circle of influence is actually fundamental to the development of our relationships and how we can get the best out of it. So let's point a few things. We live in a day and age of what we call social media, and everyone these days is an influencer. I was talking to some of my daughter's friends the other day, and they were in school, and I asked them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they said, I want to be an influencer. And I'm like, everyone is an influencer. Your parents are influencers. If you're a parent, you're definitely influencing the lives of your children. Wherever you work, you influence some people, and we are influenced by other people. So we're all influencers. But this term has grown to be known as a profession. I want to be an influencer. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be doing this, and that. And what's interesting to me is that Jesus was never really a big fan of influence, this idea as we know of today. Obviously, he influenced people. He influenced pretty much everything in the world. The world lives on a calendar that is based on before and after Jesus. So huge influence right there. We could talk about how Poe actually influenced the Western world with his writings, which are all based on what Jesus taught anyway. But he literally changed the world as no one had ever done before him, and no one will ever do that after him. So beautiful when it comes to influence. But Jesus was more about inference than he was about influence. And that's a good thing for you to get your mind wrapped around. He was more about inference than he was about influence. Do you know what that means? Do you know the meaning of the word inference? I had this description right here. That's why I have my laptop open here. I want to read it to you so I don't make any mistakes. Inference. Here's the dictionary description of what the word means. A conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning. You can see that I'm doing this because I'm getting old. What's inference? It's a conclusion reached on the basis of evidence and reasoning. We read the Gospel of John, for example, and John says, I've written all these things so that you remember what has taken place, so that you may believe. Our belief in Jesus is based on the evidence and reasoning. Jesus would encourage people to think. You know, you've heard it said this way, but I'm telling you this way. Think about it. Reason. Let your mind wrestle with some of these things. You preserve the Sabbath, and so you should. However, Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And then you go like, mind-blowing. Wow. How did it go over that law without breaking that law? How did it go about reinterpreting? And that's what Jesus had, a reinterpretation of the law. That is his burden, and that's how when he says, look, my burden is easy and my yoke is light. When he uses the term yoke, although it was a rural thing, you know, for the cows and all of that, but the yoke was also interpreted as the interpretation a rabbi would have for the law. So the interpretation Jesus has about the law is easy and light. He brings a new perspective. He challenges the status quo. Matter of fact, that's why he was crucified, because he was a threat. He was a threat to the system, the current belief system. That would incur a lot of things, including money, but that's a topic for another day. And then last Sunday, again, one of my favorite preachers was sharing this message, talking about the circles of influence, and he pointed it out very well, that the churches have been known for decades to base everything they do in favor of the masses. You know, it's the big concerts, the big conferences, the successful preachers that will preach at the big conferences. And it's all about the masses. It's all about growth. It's all about expanding. It's all about going further. And again, nothing inheritedly wrong with those things. But should that be the only and the main focus of everything that we do? We are very concerned with how wide we can go. We want to reach as many people as we can. And this is the influence culture today. We want to reach as many people as we can. We want to go wide, but we don't want to go deep. And I have a feeling that relationships are built when we go deep. I'm a big fan of just going deep. And I understand, and especially, again, I'm just being vulnerable here, just sharing with you. I've been here for 2 months, and I've met different people with different profiles, different characteristics, and having to read and adapt to how they hold conversations and how they interpret whatever I say is a challenge. But if you want to go deep, you have to expose yourself to these kind of challenges. You have to be ready and willing to expose yourself and say, you know what, maybe I will get hurt, and maybe I will hurt some people. It is taking the humility to take a step back and say, you know what, like I've made a mistake. Sorry, this happened or that happened. So it's just, it's a good challenge to, you know, navigate through that mesh of relationships and form your circles. Who's going to be closer? Like, I've developed really good friends along the years, and who are the closest? Who are the people, like I said in the first message of the series, who are the people who love you enough but are not impressed by you? who are these people that you can count on at all times, you know? As we live in this time of influence and social media, there's a very popular term called reach. How many accounts or how many people you reach. And again, just a little silly comparison, Jesus was always more concerned about the engagement than he was with the reach. Jesus was not really concerned about the reach. You know, every time he would perform a miracle, especially early on, he would tell the people who were the recipients of the miracle, look, don't tell anyone. Just keep it to yourself. Or go to the temple, do the right thing. But, you know, don't go out advertising this whole thing. We don't want to make this a big thing. Just let it be. And I'm like, Jesus is the perfect example of someone who's not really looking at reaching thousands and thousands of people. And there were occasions for that, you know, when he did the miracles and preached it to the crowds. But the main focus Jesus had was on engagement. And you can't get engagement out of a lot of people. And it is a very interesting reality if you have your social medias, and you can attest that about 10% of the people will actually engage with you. There is obviously an algorithm behind that who is seeking money of you. But there is also a natural element. Like, not everybody's going to engage at the same level. Circles of influence. Some people are going to be in the inner circle, like Jesus had the disciples. Some people are going to be out in the crowds. And it is your job to figure out who's in the crowd and who's in the inner circle, and what level of communication applies to each one of them. You know, the people who are specialists on social media would say that you cannot have engagement if you don't have any reach. But then I go, well, hold on a second. Every significant revolution that happened in our world happened with a very small group of people, a very focused group of people. And then it transported to the crowds. But it never started the other way around. It never starts with the crowds. The crowd, you know, you remember the adoption curve, the bell curve. It's, you know, early, the innovators, the early adopters, the early mass, the late mass, and then the laggards. Like, it is like that in everything. And our relationships wouldn't be any different. When it comes to circles of influence, when you form your own circles and you realize who's in, who's out, who's outer, who's ready for this level of communication, who's not ready for that level of communication, the first thing that I could notice that I got out of this reflection is this: every circle of influence, it's more focused on training than it is on lecturing or teaching. Let's go with the double T just to rhyme. It's more focused on training than it is on teaching, although the teaching part has an element of training. But when it comes to training, think about this. When you go to gym, when you go to the gym, you roll in the gym, you know, every January people enroll in the gym, and by February they're out. Like, if you go by yourself, it's very hard to keep yourself motivated. But if you have a gym buddy, someone that goes with you and pushes you, you both grow. And the workout is actually much more efficient when you have someone with you. They will monitor your resting time. They will be there to help you out if something goes wrong. They will push you beyond the limit so you can actually grow. They will encourage you to get on the right diet, so it's not just exercise, the whole lifestyle. Everything works better when you're doing with someone else. Circles of influence are more about training in that aspect than it is about teaching. I'll teach and you just listen. That doesn't work. Mentors would do this very often. Instead of just telling you what to do, they would just ask questions, the right questions, and put you in positions where you have to think out of the box to get out of that problem, to problem solve. And when they do that, they push you further than you thought you could go. That's their job. That's the job of mentors. Generally, mentors would use that motto, like, I'll do it first, and then you watch. And once you've watched for a few times, then you do it, and then I'll watch. I'll just watch from here. And then we'll do it together, just so we could adjust a few things. You know, I've noticed that when you're doing this was wrong, or this was right, but it could have been done better. So then we do it together. And once we've done it together for a few times, then you're on your own. If you need me, come and call me. And it's the same for parenting. Again, circles of influence. Your kids should be right in the inner circle, because you're the most influential person in their lives if you're a parent. And when you're training them, that's exactly how you do it. You're training them how to sweep the house, for example. First you do it, they watch it. Then they do it, you watch it, you correct it, you do it together, you have fun, you put a little song on, and then they're on their own. As they grow up and the problems develop into bigger problems, they will have questions. And as they, when they get married, they move out of the house, hopefully, and they move out of the house. And now you're not there actively all the time, ready to rescue them whenever they need it. They have to be proactive and come back with questions and problems if they can't solve it on their own. But now they're doing it on their own. This is a very vivid example of an inner circle of influence. You've given so much input throughout 20 years that now your job as a parent is just to trust that you've done enough and they have enough to go with for however long they go in life until they come back for the next one. Another example, again, we just moved into Australia. There's a lot of things happening. I thought I had it all together. I thought I knew it all. And, to my surprise, 2 months in, there's a lot of things I don't know about Australia. There's a lot of things I don't know about people, how people behave in traffic, how people behave as they cross the street, how people behave on coffee shops, and what you expect out of coffee shops. The other day, I went to a restaurant. I was working remotely. I went to a restaurant, and I walked in. There was this good thing on the menu, and I said, look, I would love one of those. And then I took a seat. 30 minutes went by, and I went back to the counter, and I don't know how long it takes, but I've just been waiting there. Like, is everything okay? And the lady was like, did you pay? And I'm like, no, it looks like a restaurant. I ordered it. The girl said, okay, this is what you want. I sat down. She never communicated, but they just presumed that I knew that the normal here is you pay first. That's the normal. Some restaurants, you'll be able to sit down and eat, and then you pay later. But the normal is you pay first. I never knew that. I thought the restaurant was different than just a coffee shop because it was less busy. Matter of fact, I was the only one in the restaurant. I was the only one. There was no one else there. I was the only one. And then she waited 30 minutes, and then I came back to tell me that I had to pay first. So I said, look, I can't wait anymore. I'm going. I'm sorry. And then I went home with no lunch, hungry. Anyway, it's a good thing to learn the customs of people before you move in. Let's continue. So first thing, circles of influence are more about training than they are about teaching or lecturing, like a passive environment of learning. Second, circles of influence, they are more about the care than they are about the growth. They're more about the care than they are about the growth. We just talked about parenting. No parent whatsoever. I haven't met any parent who would go like 2 o'clock in the morning, walk into their kids' room and just like look for 6 hours straight until they wake up and look intentionally at their legs to see if the leg is growing. Like, let me double check if you're growing. Let me see. No parent is concerned with it throughout the life of a kid. Obviously, when they're babies, you want the natural rhythm of growth, so you kind of expect they to get to a certain height at a certain age. If everything is running okay, obviously there is a margin, genetics, DNA, and all of that. But the reality is, once that kicks off, we're not really checking constantly if we have grown. But every parent that I know of is really concerned 24/7 if they're caring well for their kids, if they're loving well on their kids. So if we care, we will grow. As a group, as a business, as a community, as a person, if we care enough, we will grow. And it's natural. It's just healthy things grow, but healthy things die too. There's a time and a season for everything. So we just have to be able to deal with all of that balancing nuances. But if we care, we will grow. Now, the opposite is not necessarily true. If we grow, it doesn't really mean necessarily that we are caring enough. And we've all seen that in churches. We've all seen the result of pushing and driving for growth without the proper care. Yeah, we'll grow the church. Yes, we'll grow the masses. We'll attract the crowds. But where's the essence? Where's the influence? Or better, where's the inference? What are we inferring, if that's even a word, in people's lives? What is the conclusion that we're getting to after reasoning and enough evidence of what Jesus has taught us to love on one another? Where is the real fruit? We can't see that. Why? Because we focused for too long on growth and not on care. Now, growth is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying it is. It's a good thing. The more the merrier. You know, the bigger the crowd, the more people are hearing about Jesus. That's the good part of growth. But there is also the bad part that we have to be very careful with. So in summary, these are the 4 things that I noticed out of this message about circles of influence. The first one, we got to build circles that are inference, not influence. The first thing, we got to build circles that are focused on inference, not just influence. Inference, not just influence. Second, we got to build circles that are more worried about engagement than we are about reach. We want to engage and not just reach. We want to build circles. Third thing, we want to build circles in our lives that are more about training than it is about teaching. We got to be involved with the right people at the right time, and then we all at all times. I like to say that at all times we all need to have a Timothy and a Paul, like someone teaching us and someone we're teaching at all times. And finally, last but not least, we got to build circles that are more concerned about care than we are about growth. If we do that, and I understand this might be painful, this might take too long. If you're impatient like me, I'm very impatient. I got to work on my patience. And if you ask God to work on your patience, He's not just going to give you patience just like that. He's going to give you opportunities to be patient with people, to exercise that, and to grow out of your comfort zone. Because like we learned in many other videos that I've said, nothing good happens in the comfort zone except rest. So you only rest at your comfort zone. But that's a topic for another day. But if we do this, if we build these type of circles, and it is good to build circles like that, circles of influence. Who do you influence? Who are the 5 people you're influencing? Who are the people that you are part of their circle? You know how you build a circle and you become the average of those people? Who included you in their circle? And then the other question is, who did you include in your circle? Are they the same people? Are you part of 2 or 3 people's circles and these people are in your circle? Maybe that's the question you should ask. Maybe that's the question we all should ask ourselves, because then we're just leveling. We're just all at the same pace and no one is pushing anyone. No one is pushing anyone nowhere. So that's good questions to ask. Just try to reflect here. But if we do that, build circles that are more about care than we are about growth, engagement more than reach, we'll build this thing and we'll be successful and we'll have a good journey and the church will be healthy. And our environments will be healthy. Slowly, as we say here, slowly and steadily, but surely. Slowly and steadily, but surely. I'm preaching to myself here, people. Slowly and steadily, but surely. So that's the message for today. I wanted to share that with you. I'm very excited to be doing the Sunday Talks. And if you really liked it, I would appreciate if you want to subscribe to the channel or whatever you want to do. And I understand you might have different preferences, but we are here doing this thing and just sharing everything that we learn. There's more. We talk about a whole lot of more stuff. And then there's this platform that you can go on called Patreon. If you want to support, the link is right in the description. If you want to support everything that we're doing, that's a different way to engage, not just reach. But if you've enjoyed it, leave your like, your comment, all of that. I hope to see you on the next one. And we have prepared a few other things for you to watch. This is really interesting. If you're into theology and all of that, this is really interesting. Other than that, there's more about purpose in the channel. Go back, watch that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be super, super, super good. I'm pretty sure it's going to add value to your life. And if it does, let us know. All right. God bless.